Hello, thank you guys so much for clicking this video today. I really appreciate it. This is a great podcast with VyFinance. They're doing pretty cool things on Cardano. Before we get into the podcast, there's a lot happening today. So, in this podcast, if you stay till the end, you watch some of the video, you can be entered into a giveaway for a 1,000 plus ADA NFT. It's actually from VyFinance. They gave it to me to give away to you. Also, you can actually claim from Drip Drops right now and donate to Ukraine with your normal tokens. It just added right into the fee. Very cool. Another giveaway is happening, and this ticket is $350, so a $350 giveaway for free. All you have to do is click the link to the Twitter tweet. It's going to be the first link in the description and also the first link in the comment section from me. Once you click that tweet, you'll see how you can enter a giveaway for the Rare Bloom event. What is the Rare Bloom? The Rare Bloom is an in-person Cardano event. It's going to be the best event this year. At this event, we have already confirmed IOG, ADA Handle, Sunday Swap, Ben Gortzel, Singularity Net. I'm going to go. Drip Drops is going to go. It is going to be the Cardano event of this year, and you must attend. I wish you could attend for free, and that's why we're giving away some tickets, so make sure you guys join that giveaway. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Click the like button, comment down below, subscribe, hit the notification bell as always. Normal YouTube stuff. It pushes these videos out far and wide so more people learn about Cardano. Thank you so much. In this video, we're going to be learning more about VyFinance. So first, can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Steven, CEO of VyFinance and founder, of course. And we're here to have a bit of a chat. Thank you so much for inviting me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. I've really been looking forward to this. You guys are doing, a lot of different utility on Cardano that's very unique. Since we've had the Alonzo hard fork, there aren't very many projects that are actually up and running that are actually offering, real services to Cardano users, and your project is one of those projects. So can you, do a general introduction of VyFinance for people?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. So VyFinance is an entire ecosystem, really. It's not just a single product. We're a suite of products. I'll start with what we currently have running now. Currently, we have token staking, where you can farm for 5 different tokens. We've got NFT staking, where you can farm our NFT to earn different tokens across the Cardano ecosystem. So they're the 2 products that we currently have running. We're also introducing a DEX, of course. So we're building our DEX, and that's looking to be launched in the next sort of 2 months or so. What makes our DEX very unique to all the others, or the other 2, I should say, Sunday Swap and Muesli Swap that currently exist, is that our DEX is going to be entirely using just the PAB and the Cardano blockchain. So we're actually building our own serialization library to allow for the blockchain to allow for our program, our app, to link directly to the PAB. At the moment, that's the Plutus application backend, I should say. That's the structure that allows apps to talk to the blockchain. At the moment, all apps such as MinSwap and Sunday Swap, they're managing that centrally. So all the wallets, every time you log on, that actual connection between the blockchain and the wallet is managed centrally. We're looking to be the first to be able to do it decentralized. And the way that we're doing that is we're designing our own, it's called a serialization library. We're designing our own library to allow us to then be able to do that. And we intend to make that library open source as well, because we believe it's something that's core to the blockchain. Now, that was a bit of an aside there. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no worries. That's pretty exciting, though. I want to ask you, one more question. Is there any, drawbacks, right? You're mentioning that, MinSwap and Sunday Swap are using a centralized, method of connecting through the wallets. Is there any drawbacks to the method that you guys are taking?
Look, the biggest drawback that we have to the method that we're taking is time, and the fact that we have to build even more newer technology. So money, it's more expensive to do. But we also believe that it's really fundamental that Cardano starts to have actual products that work natively on its blockchain as a proof of concept for the function of that blockchain, right? So we're working rather close with IOHK now. We're really trying to get this set up so that the blockchain itself is able to manage these motions rather than using like Sunday, which is a centralized scooper model, right? Not that there's anything I should add. I'm not trying to say anything against those companies that have chosen to take that route. makes sense from a business perspective. From a blockchain perspective, though, we're just very interested in ensuring that we have that access to a decentralized system.
Yeah, I didn't really think anything you mentioned about them was negative. It's often, when you're building something different, you have to reference, existing projects and the way that they went about things as well. So yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from there. So, you mentioned you have this whole ecosystem of products, and the DEX is just one of them. Do you want to move
DEX
on to the next offering?
Absolutely. We are then designing an auto harvester. Now, an auto harvester is, if you can imagine it if you know the product, on Ethereum, it's called VyFinance. There's another one, Harvest Finance. There's a whole host of auto harvesters across multiple chains, really. This is a system that allows users to engage with the blockchain themselves. With liquidity mining without having to actually manage those liquidity mines. Right. So at the moment, if you want to do liquidity mining, you have to manage 10 to 15 different tokens simultaneously. You're putting them into different liquidity mines across multiple different platforms to try and get some kind of yield. That can become a very complex process with very long spreadsheets if you have the capacity to construct those spreadsheets and manage that process, which a lot of people don't. So we're essentially creating a system that is a one-stop shop that allows users to just deposit their ADA, and then we take that ADA and we liquidity mine that for them, right? And that means that users won't have to sit there worrying about their day-to-day impermanence risk. They won't have to sit there worrying about which tokens do I buy and sell, how do I move my money around, how do I ensure that I'm keeping track of it all. Our system is managing all of that for you. What makes our system really unique as well is that we're implementing an AI that actually manages those strategies. Now, that AI is a neural net. So it's teaching itself how to best optimize the yield farming across the platform, across the Cardano platform, all on your behalf. So this is actually going to be a first to any blockchain, which is to have an auto harvester that's being managed through a neural net. No other blockchain has ever done this.
So is another term for that a yield optimizer? Have you ever heard that?
No, a yield optimizer is slightly different. No, I think I might be thinking, yes, I think it is a yield optimizer. I was thinking of yield aggregator, which is something else. Yes, it is a yield optimizer is another word for it, yes.
Okay, yeah. The reason I asked that is because I actually had Lars on the podcast for Genius Yield, and they're working on a yield optimizer. And, I'm still learning about all this new stuff that's coming to Cardano, and I've never really heard it be labeled an auto harvester before. So thank you for explaining that. And that sounds pretty interesting. And I think that, product definitely has a huge use case for the average person. For example, my father, he's actually farming liquidity on MinSwap right now. And I had to, walk him through it. And, it'd be a lot easier. Just how they have the zap feature where you just zap one token, you get two. That's very useful for him. And it would be even more useful if he could farm and diversify, the amount of tokens he's farming. So, yeah, I could see a huge use case for that.
Absolutely. And where we're looking, with the advantage of having the neural net managing the bulk of that strategy is that we essentially get the ability to have a strategy that isn't just set from its creation, right? So a lot of yield optimizers have got set strategies that you can then put your money into, and then those set strategies deliver a return. But then if those strategies start to go sideways or those strategies start to not look as strong as they were before, the actual yield harvester or the actual yield optimizer doesn't manage that strategy in any way, right? So that's what makes ours different and why I prefer to call it an auto harvester, because ours has actually got adaptable strategies based on current market conditions. So a user would deposit based on a risk that they want to achieve. Do you want a medium risk, a low risk, a high risk, or do you want to just hold mostly stablecoin? We also will have a stablecoin option. That's why we're working with Cody, who are releasing JED, I should say, which is the stablecoin on Cardano. We will actually have these strategies that will adapt in real time to current market conditions so that users will be able to even further optimize their yield outside of just strategies that have been created for the sake of yield optimization. In other words, to simplify the process. We don't just simplify, we also adapt. That's what makes us incredibly unique.
Awesome. So will this actually work with multiple DEXs, or will this only work on your DEX?
this will be planning on working on multiple dexes. So our entire focus is to ensure that we are trying to send liquidity out across the entire Cardano ecosystem to as strong a degree, to as high a yield return as possible, right? So if we're noticing that for the same amount of risk, we're going to be able to draw a better yield off of, let's say, I don't want to use existing names that have already launched, so let's say using Cardax's DEX. And we notice that we can achieve a better yield using Cardax's DEX for a pair than we'll be able to achieve using Sunday Swap's DEX. Then our auto harvester will be able to tell us, oh, Cardax is offering a better yield for the same pair, which means that now the risk is better placed by putting the pair in Cardax rather than holding it in Sunday Swap. And then that changes the strategy mildly. The funds are moved across to access that higher liquidity. And that's all taking place in real time.
That's very exciting. One of the features that I was interested in that hasn't been released yet is actually the bar. What is the bar on VyFinance?
Absolutely. So the bar is our distributive mechanism. So that's what allows users to share in the income that's earned across the entire ecosystem. So the way that DEX generally works is, well, a DEX works is that all the funds that are collected are sent back to the liquidity pool. The way that we work is most of the funds that are collected are sent back to the liquidity pool, but 15% of the fees from a trade will be shared through to our bar. And that means that we're collecting the income from the trade, from the swap, we're converting it into VyFi, and then we're distributing it to all the people that have deposited VyFi at our bar. Similarly, we're going to be doing that with our auto harvester. So 15% of all the yield collected from our auto harvester is going to be converted to VyFi and is going to be distributed to holders of VyFi through our bar. And as we already mentioned briefly, our NFT project, 6% of all the royalties from the NFT project, so 6% of the sale of every NFT, is going to be withheld, converted to VyFi, and distributed to our bar. Excuse me. So we've got multiple systems that we're constructing to feed income as VyFi through to holders of VyFi. With the aim being we want our token to have a deflationary mechanism. In other words, as our system is used, VyFi is bought, and that means that by holding VyFi, you get a natural deflation to the VyFi that you hold, i.e. you hold 100 VyFi, and in a month you hold 103 VyFi. And that's core to our system, is the distribution of the income that's earned to the users of our platform.
Okay, sounds very cool. So
it's also, I should add that this will be the first ever use case of any bar type or distributive mechanism of this kind, which is going to be implementing more than just one income stream. So more than just one source outside of a DEX. We are, look, between the neural net, between doing a bar with multiple income streams, we're doing quite a few world firsts here. And we thought Cardano was the perfect place to do it because it itself is a world first.
So with this bar mechanism, is this smart contracts doing this, or will that be what it is one day? You mentioned 6%.
It's going to be smart contracts doing it from day dot. So we're going to be launching our DEX with the bar, and the initial income streams from the bar is going to be our DEX, our NFT sales, and also we've got a factory contract to allow, we're building a factory contract to allow different businesses to set up token vaults on our platform. And there will also be a portion of the income earned from the token vaults that will also be distributed to our bar. So we're looking at setting up these income streams to launch with the bar. So that's looking to be, once we complete the serialization library. I really wish I could give an exact date, but I just can't yet. We're hoping within 2 months, given how the serialization library is looking.
Awesome. So
we've already got the bar on. We've already got the bar on a private testnet, I should add. So the bar is already pretty much running. The only thing that we need to do is we need to complete all the connections between our income streams and the bar, because the bar by itself is essentially a container that accepts
and
VyFi.
you have to kind of connect smart contracts together. You have to have this smart contract. That's interesting.
Talking to that smart contract, and then when this one executes, that one executes, which then executes this one. Particularly with something as complex as connecting it all to our bar, there's multiple sort of flows like that we need to ensure that we have working together.
Yeah, that's definitely very complicated. So another feature that I noticed you guys had that's unique to VyFinance is token vaults. Can you explain what token vaults are?
Yeah, absolutely. So token vaults are essentially a vault where you can deposit your VyFi and you can earn tokens from across the Cardano ecosystem. So we were the first project to launch with multi-currency token vaults on Cardano. And those vaults have now been running for about 4 months. We've had a lot of success with them. Oh, sorry, 3 months, I should say. My mistake. We've had a lot of success with them. They really have garnered quite a bit of attention because you can earn multiple currencies. And that's something that's very unique to, that's something that was much more unique to us when we were the only ones doing it. Now there's 2 or 3 others that have jumped on board. But, being first movers is always a bit of an advantage there.
So is it just the VyFi token that you can stake on there, or are there tokens from other projects on Cardano?
You can only stake VyFi on there. So you stake VyFi to earn tokens from other projects.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
We're releasing a new vault, should be tomorrow, maybe the day after, as of day of filming, I should say. And that's going to be Cardano Village. So Cardano Village is launching an IFO, which is an initial farm offering through ourselves, which will allow users to stake VyFi and earn that token before it's even launched on any marketplace.
So those VyFi tokens that users are staking in these smart contracts, are those tokens doing anything, or are they just sitting in a smart contract to kind of remove the total supply from the market, or are those tokens being provided, as liquidity on a DEX somewhere?
They're sitting in a smart contract at the moment to provide liquidity. Once we get more complexity going with our smart, so what you just described there, where they're sitting in the contract and being used as liquidity, that's the auto harvester, right? So that's the complexity that the auto harvester is going to allow us to bring into the system.
Okay.
So at the time being, a large part of where we garner these tokens is because companies wish to market themselves. They want to become known and they want to have more people holding their tokens. We've got a platform that allows users to access those tokens and to be able to get them without risking their own money, right? They're only depositing VyFi. They always keep hold of that VyFi. It's always there, and they can still earn and grow their token supply of other tokens that they may want to hold.
Awesome. So another feature and this is actually already released, is the NFT staking. Can you tell us more about that? How does that work for, someone who's just now finding NFTs on Cardano? They have one in their wallet. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one was my favorite. We gave one of the NFTs that you're giving out at the end of this video, VyFi Purple. We gave those out for free to all people that participated in our ICO. From there, we decided it would be really fun to have a sort of airdrop was our original idea. We thought, well, let's give all those that participated in our ICO an airdrop, and let's do it through the NFT that we gave them as a present, right? From there, we designed the NFT vaults, and then that idea sort of really took hold and expanded out. And then we had other businesses that were like, oh, this is really cool. We would also like to be able to access this and let your users access our income or access the NFT vaults. Now we have those NFT vaults that are accessible through our NFT, and they can earn you multiple tokens again from across the Cardano ecosystem, including MinSwap. We've got a Min vault for our NFT, so you can also earn MinSwap by staking our NFT. And these vaults are essentially designed as a method for businesses, again, to be able to access larger investment pools, right? So this is how we garner these tokens. We essentially let businesses know that we've got investors that are interested, that want to earn tokens across Cardano, and businesses that are interested can supply us with tokens to offer that NFT. We're also allowing a farm of VyFi, of course, and that comes from our VyFi farming supply, because 85% of our VyFi is designated to farm. And that's something that actually makes us very different to almost all other projects, is our tokenomics. We've only got 2.5% of the tokenomic to the team, of our tokens to the team. 85% of our tokens are for farm, for liquidity provisions, and for the community. Within that, we've had about 2% for ICO, a little less, 1.5% for ICO, and then the rest is going to be used for a mixture of listings and treasury. Treasury has got 8% of the total supply. So we've got one of the lowest supplies for any teams because we believe that it's really important for a team to be able to build a good project before they start profiting from their tokens. basically.
Yeah, I would.
We think
I would
everyone
definitely agree with that. So, how are you guys going to get future funding? Let's say everything that you stated that you're going to build has been built. Are you going to have some sort of voting mechanism? Through a funding mechanism that way?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. We're actually going to launch with on-chain governance, hopefully within the next week and a half. We're running the beta tests right now with some of our community, and this is going to be the first on-chain governance in all of Cardano. In terms of securing funding into the future, look, I funded this project through trading, right? So I'm a trader. I funded this project by by trading my way into this project, I guess you'd say. I run a hedge fund. I don't really know any other way to say it. I run a hedge fund. I garner funding through that hedge fund. So I fund this project through a separate business, which is part of the reason why we didn't need VC funds. It's part of the reason why we didn't do any large-scale investment. This one was entirely funded by ourselves. And as long as I am able to do that, I intend on continuing to do that. And at the moment, we don't seem to be having any issue continuing to do that. If a time arises that we do need funding, that's when you go speak to VCs. That's when you go speak to others about what it is that we can actually set up. But until such a time, I don't want to, will myself into needing funding. So yes, at the moment, it's self-managed, self-funded through my other business.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you being so open about that information. All of these features that you guys have, all of these, products, are any of them audited? By any third party, and will you guys be moving towards that in the future, if not?
Yeah, we've already set ourselves up to be audited by Tweag, TWEAG. They're one of the largest auditors in the Pluto space. They did Sunday and they did MinSwap. We are working with WellTyped as internal auditors. So WellTyped are a business the founders of WellTyped were one of the original designers of Haskell. So the reality is that once we get WellTyped. We've been working with WellTyped to look over our contracts, but they're not making any public announcements in terms of auditing. That's why they're called internal auditors. Their job is to ensure that we're meeting our own design standards and to work with us to ensure that we're meeting our own design standards. Then once they're all complete, we hand them over to the external auditors, Tweag. And then once Tweag have looked over that, we'll have completed our external audit. We do intend to have that complete before we launch our DEX.
What levels of risk, are people undertaking when they're interacting with, some of these products?
Mm-hmm. There's a few. So first and foremost, when holding VyFi, you're of course have VyFi risk, right? You're holding the risk of our token. So if VyFi drops, the value of your token that you're holding drops. That's just a little bit how it works. Another one, once you're invested in liquidity pools, you hold impermanent risk, which is essentially the risk that the values of the tokens change. And as the value of the tokens change, you gain or lose the token. Well, in general, you gain the token that loses the most value, right? So if you're in a liquidity pool with ADA VyFi and then VyFi drops by half, you're going to find that you have 50% more VyFi in the liquidity pool and 50% less ADA. So in that motion, you've now lost income, or you've now lost asset value. We've actually got a description of impermanent loss, a bit of an in-depth description of impermanent loss in our Git books. I do suggest anyone who is intending on managing impermanent risk through liquidity pools to give that a look.
That was a pretty good explanation. When you got these two token pools of money, when someone's selling, they have to deposit one and take another, and you're the one that's getting the other. So that's definitely a huge risk with impermanent loss. Sorry for cutting you off there. Continue.
No. But that's exactly it. That description is exactly it. You're going to be gaining the token, losing value, right? And then, of course, I guess at the moment, the other big one, of course, is political risk. God, that one's huge at the moment, because we don't know exactly what regulation is going to be in a year's time, right? So it's really important for users to recognize that as a result of the risk of not knowing where we're going to be in the next period of time, we're not going to have access to the perfect knowledge, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We're not going to have access to know exactly how these are going to be managed from a governmental perspective in 2 years.
Yeah. And that's pretty important, because you almost have to, in the traditional industry, a lot of people building financial products, they're almost designing them based on the regulation. And we're in such a weird gray area right now where we can't even design products based on the regulation because we don't even know what the regulation is going to be. You know, it's
That's
very
exactly
unfortunate.
it, right? So and this isn't just ourselves, this is with any
it's
cryptocurrency
everybody.
project.
It's everybody.
Right? You hold political risk. And that's something that really users should be aware of because it does have a big impact on price, as we saw recently with the launch of the war in Ukraine, right? So even global events and regulations combine to make a choppy environment, is what we'd call it in the markets, a choppy market. And when you have a choppy market, people can start to panic and people can start to sell. That is the action of political risk. When it impacts a market, you'll see a market go really choppy and then you'll see a market drop. This is something that users need to be aware can happen.
Okay. What about like smart contract risk? You know, is there, have you, because, you know, Plutus is new, you know, we're all kind of building these products for the first time ever. And the difference between, you know, here and Ethereum is, you know, a lot of, you know, new projects or products coming out are just, you know, copy paste of another Solidity project, you know, so should users be worried about, you know, smart contract risk, you know, when interacting with any of these products?
I'm a lot less worried about smart contract risk on Cardano due to the design of the language itself being based in Haskell, which is a functional programming language, rather than being based in Solidity, which is object-oriented. To give a bit of a better description of that, rather than just using big words, an object-oriented language essentially has structures, and then you interact with these structures. The example I like to use is with a door. In object-oriented programming, you would say, this is a door. Now I would like to conduct the action of opening the door. So then you can open it. Whereas in functional programming, you have to outline the actual risks. So you have to outline the actual object themselves. So you would have to design the concept of a door. What are the moves that a door can make? And then once I've designed the outline of a door and I've designed what actions I can take on a door, I can then implement those actions on the door. So it's a much more bottom-up construction process. Being a much more bottom-up construction process means that there are mathematical securities that we can implement into the smart contract to ensure that we don't get errors forming as we see in Ethereum, So the way that I like to envision it is very much like a Mac back in 2012, a Mac computer. And they had that ad about Mac computers versus Microsoft computers and how Mac didn't have viruses. If we think of smart contract risk as a virus, right? When this is initially released, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done by criminals to understand how they can actually take advantage of the systems as they're designed, right? Because it's a lot more mathematically sound. In so doing, I think that initially, and this is I think, I don't know for sure, I think that initially you're going to find that there's a lot less smart contract risk on Cardano than you have on Ethereum, as long as, you know, you have a audited project and people have looked over it to ensure that the code itself hasn't been designed in a way that allows for negative things to happen.
That makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate that explanation. I've never really heard of it described in that way. You know, this idea of when you're actually, you know, building these objects, that you're setting the functionality, you know, you're almost creating the limits by creating what it can possibly do. So I really appreciate that explanation. I think that really kind of expanded on that a little for me, and it really makes sense because, you know, it is called a functional programming language. So you're designing it with the functions in mind. So thank you for that. That was very useful.
And a classic example, one of the most classic forms of rug pull is where someone finds the capacity to be able to put in, let's say, one BNB, and then they can skew it so that the one BNB pays them out the entire liquidity pool, right? That's draining liquidity, right? When people find a bug that allows you to drain liquidity. That can't really happen in Cardano. That can't happen in Cardano. Because in Cardano, you would actually have the construction of the function, the object itself, which says, but if these two numbers, I can't put in a number here and then give out a number higher on the other side, right? That in itself goes against the actual construction of the object. That object would instantly reject it. So that function is going to be rejected.
So And no one would actually, unless they're trying to do something nefarious, no one would write that function in there.
No. Unless you're trying to do something nefarious, the businesses that are working on Cardano aren't going to build it with that capacity. Yeah. And that's why I do say it is important that we have other businesses that look over the smart contracts being released. I've never been a fan of just throwing money into smart contracts that are completely unaudited and from unknown businesses, right? Like when you suddenly see a random DEX appear on the BNB chain and people flood their money into it, and it's like, well, they've got a hidden team. You don't know who they are. They've got no name. They've never been in the space before. What do I know about this smart contract? So there's a level there of, one, you need auditing to ensure that businesses are being honest, and that's super important. And secondly, you need to have visibility to ensure that people can actually interact, engage, and talk to the business that are managing these products, right? Because if the businesses are invisible, well, that's just, again, more risk.
Yeah. So are the smart contracts that you guys are using in the bar or with the auto harvester, will those ever be open sourced?
Yes, they will be open sourced. We intend on making them open sourced once we launch. The biggest reason why we can't make them open source prior to launch is because that gives away our business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could definitely see that. I mean, even Sunday Swap, they don't have their contracts open sourced right now. And when someone questioned them about that, they mentioned, as I mentioned, copy and pasting, smart contracts. That was one of their quotes was, hey, we're kind of worried about people copying what we're doing early on, which it kind of makes sense. Maybe it's a cop out a little bit. But
look, and also there's the other thing. Please continue. I will not say what I was about to say.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Sometimes, pops in your mind. You're like, are you guys going to go to any events?
You don't want to look down. You don't want to talk down on any other business or any other project in the ecosystem.
Yeah, right? I'm learning that myself. I was very, last year I was a lot more negative and a lot more disagreeable, and I realized that we're kind of all in this space together. And although you may not agree with something that someone else does, you shouldn't bring them down because it kind of brings everybody down. So, I'm definitely learning that myself. Are you guys going to be going into any events this year?
So many. I'm going to Dubai next Monday. I've got the Global Blockchain Conference in Dubai. I'm going to be speaking there. I'm going to Shitcoin and BTC 2022. And then I'm also speaking at a post event after that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I was only added to the list 2 days ago. Then I'm going to Paris. After that, we're speaking at the European Blockchain Summit. Yes, I believe it's the European Blockchain Summit. We're speaking at both their... they've got the first day is for tokens and the second day is for NFTs. So being an NFT project and a token project, we're going to go speak at both of them. Thereafter, as of this moment, we're going to be at Rare Bloom, of course, and Consensus. Yes, and Consensus, as well as a few more in Miami as well. Yes. And also, I should add, just very quickly, I do have to move to the here, but we won an award for most utile NFT.
Is that for from the CNFT Awards, or?
That's it, the CNFT Awards. They sent us our trophy.
That's awesome.
And here it is. Looks great, doesn't it?
Yep, I love Patrick and those guys. That does look great, man. That's a great honor. I'd love to have one of those sitting in my house.
Yeah, Patrick Tobler is an absolute legend. And they do really hard work. They work hard, they work well. And it was really an honor to have our NFT, particularly since the NFT sort of arose as a bit of an, I wouldn't say accident, but arose as a bit of a side part to our project. It wasn't initially what we were designing. And it came out as a present to our community to be awarded best long-term utility for 2022 at the CNFT Awards was just amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, honestly, say we covered a lot and I learned a lot from this podcast. Is there anything in this podcast that we missed?
No, I don't think there's anything that we missed per se. The only last bit that I would like to add is that we're building a learning management system, so an LMS. This is going to be designed to allow users to teach themselves how to engage with these systems if they have the will to learn, right? So we're trying to create a really structured program to take users from the auto harvester, which is where we manage the liquidity for you, down through to our DEX, where you manage the liquidity yourself. And that is going to be done through educational material, through courses that we're building, and we're working with a pedagogist to be able to do so. That to us is really, really essential, because I personally believe, particularly with something like Cardano, which is expanding into smaller markets and markets with people that are honestly more financially vulnerable than the average person is in Australia or the average person is in England, that we need to be able to give them the capacity to learn what these systems are so that they can avoid getting eaten up. You know, we've all seen markets eat people up.
Yeah. Yep. Some people probably got eaten up there recently.
Yes, absolutely. So that educational side of things, I'm only mentioning it now at the end, but that's a really core part of what we're designing, right? We really think that what's going to be pushing DeFi to the next level is by teaching people that these systems exist and teaching people how these systems work. Because in general, you understand how a bank works, right? In general, you know that a bank accepts deposits from someone and then they can relend that money to others, right? And then they take their cut in between. But the average person doesn't understand how a DEX works, or the average person doesn't understand how an auto harvester works, or an average person doesn't understand how to manage different token risks, or how to manage impermanent loss. These concepts are more complex, and I think there's a lot of need to increase awareness to allow the system to grow further.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And we're at the Rare Bloom, we're really going to take a big, because all of these DeFi products are so new to Cardano, and people, in Ethereum, they've had, access to these products in the education for a long time, whereas people in Cardano, they're brand new, and, they may see these high yield numbers from, like a DEX and not understand the risk of impermanent loss. So yeah, that's very important. And I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing that. I did really enjoy this podcast, though. When you guys, release more products, I'd love for you to come on again, just to keep the dialogue going and keep, the community educated on what you guys are working on over there.
Absolutely. I'd love to come on again. And I also really look forward to whoever wins the NFT from today's competition to have them come along to our platform and give that a bit of a farm.
Yeah, I agree as well. If you guys want to be entered into that giveaway for an NFT that is currently worth over 1,000 ADA, what you need to do is comment. I was going to say VyFinance, but that's a little easy. We'll do VyFinance space purple, and that will enter you to the giveaway. I do want to say there are scammers in the comments, so I will never ask you to reach out to me on WhatsApp to win the NFT. Those are all scammers. I will comment directly from my account, and I will ask for your information and not for you to reach out to me on WhatsApp. So again, thank you guys all. I hope you're happy about the giveaway. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you like the video, comment down below, subscribe for more content like this, and I do appreciate all you guys. So
thank you so much.